Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host, Bill Stierle. And today, Bill and I decided we are going to discuss truth and our video-based society. And, I'm sure it comes as no shock to any of you listening or watching that everyone practically in America over the age of 10 or 12 has a video camera in their pocket with their cell phone. In addition to that, police now have body cams that are recording video of pretty much everything they do. And it's really revealing some things about our society that are in some ways unsettling. In some ways, it's really important that these things are being revealed. There's an awful lot to break down and discuss here, Bill, isn't there?
There is. And the thing that I'd like to, get our listeners to really focus on is video as a means of communication. How is this message being communicated? And we have the verbal audio that you're listening to right now. We have the radio medium. We have the audio books now. We reading, obviously. And, now we have video that's really tacked on top of it and is increasing its influence on communication and beliefs and biases and the impact it's going to have on businesses, the impact it's having on society. Obviously, the police stuff is, front and center. But it's also, trying to figure out, how to communicate with truth when we got all these different messages coming in different directions. Our perception and our perspective gets skewed because it depends on when you're turning the radio on or watching the video that you're watching, that your perspective and your perception can really shift. So there can be one bad customer service experience in a company. And if it's broadcasted the right way, both video and audio, and it picks up as a Twitter tweet that then goes viral because it was done by a famous person and that many people pass it on, somehow it became a truth. Well, wait a minute. It wasn't really a full truth. It was a customer service experience where one employee did something really junky and it has a major impact on that brand or as that company. The one that comes to mind is the experience in Starbucks in Philadelphia, which we have talked about in the past. But it's really important here when we talk about truth in our video-based society, because it's moving more and more to people getting messages and news. People aren't turning on the radio at the start of the day and letting it run all day while, somebody's in the kitchen or at work. Or no, we're digesting information on a video communication cell phone. And then of course we're recording the same things, as it goes too. So Tom, I think we're teeing this up pretty good because we've got to take a look at these different perceptions and perspectives and really call it into question about how is it going to impact business and how is it going to impact society and policing and many other things that we've got a lot of work mentally to do to make sure that we keep things in perspective. which is where the stick is. How do we keep things in perspective when we are speaking about truth, when we see something? So,
well, I really appreciate that, Bill. There are many perspectives as well. And I think it's important to keep all this in perspective, but also to recognize the gravity of certain situations. I mean, we've just come off of a week where Derek Chauvin was on trial for the murder of George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, the police officer. And there was a 9-minute, 29-second video shot by a bystander of Derek Chauvin having his knee on his neck and tragically ending his life for an alleged crime that really didn't deserve for anybody to lose their life over it, for sure. And can you imagine, Bill, if we didn't have that video, if this was 30 years ago and there was not a video camera in everybody's pocket in their cell phone, there would have been a very different trial with likely a very different outcome, because the police officers involved, the four of them, probably would have banded together and defended their actions and minimized what they did to impact, the life of George Floyd. And the people that were bystanders maybe would have testified and talked about it, but we wouldn't have had this video. It would have been hard to determine, well, who do you believe here? Right?
Yeah, we do push a lot of trust, and rightfully so, towards the police. We push a lot of integrity towards the police. We are counting on them to get it right. We're counting on them to really have that next level of integrity and really live by the laws that are on the books. The only trouble is that if you have a group of police officers and they've all got to look off for each other's back, the need for supporting and loyalty and community that they need to share with each other, because they got to work like a team. They can't think, well, if I make a mistake, who's going to report me in? They can't think like that. They got to think like we're in the unit and we're staying together like this. Now, this happens in all kinds of situations. In business, this happens by somebody not speaking up. And I did a mediation several years back where, somebody brought a database in from another company.
Ooh.
And they got sued over it. And guess what? Nobody said anything about it for 9 months. Nobody said, because it was an advantage. And they, no one their intuition was off. So in the company setting, this kind of thing can happen all the time. And it's the cashier that says, no big deal, that, or it's the stalker that says no, but it's we can go down the line of people going I don't want to make a ruffle on this. I don't want to be called out. I don't want to stand up for what's right. I just want to get my paycheck, go ahead, because I got to work with these people the next day. And I'm not going to stand up here, and even though there's HR issues all over the place, Tom, it's very, very difficult to say the truth. And as time goes by, the video footage of things, and there have been people fired over video footage for taking stuff, out of a company. And hey.
Well, I even remember this incident that we saw took place in New York City in 2020, where there was a young Black boy with his father, and this woman all of a sudden couldn't find her iPhone, and she accused this boy of stealing her iPhone. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That was really unfortunate and a terrible thing to happen to that boy, because he didn't steal anything and she accused him of it. And the father, what's he do? Turns on his video camera on his cell phone and starts recording it, her behavior, how she treated him. And it later turns out that she left her iPhone in the Uber she had just been in prior to this incident taking place. And there probably was a time before everybody had a video camera in their pocket that she would have accused that boy of stealing her, whatever it was that she believed was stolen. And police would have been called, and they would have looked at that boy very differently if the father did not have that video camera to illuminate sort of what she did. And then the news came out that, she later got her phone. I mean, it's just terribly tragic situation. And it really reveals bias, doesn't it?
It does. The bias and belief influences the truth. I mean, and where do these beliefs come from? And a lot of times beliefs come from over messaging. They're not even real. It's like all you got to do is keep messaging the belief. I mean, the most famous one is to get women to smoke. They call the cigarette the torches of freedom, to get women to smoke, because women's rights was coming in, and all this, the suffragettes and the right to smoke. Oh my gosh. It's like, it's a trickery of language to put something that I value, freedom, next to a product, when the product doesn't give you freedom anyways. It affects your health, and those kinds of things are really, really problematic. As well as the story you mentioned is, here's a woman coming in with a bias. Clearly the person over there, that kid, stole it. It couldn't have been, I forgot it. It couldn't have been something in my memory, so it's, again, this is where the video is going to be used and utilized as a broader range to communicate stories and to create impact, not necessarily all for good. It's not necessarily, it's going to be, this evidence looks this thing, but it's really not this thing.
Well, and we see these, so this is sort of our point that really led us to talk about this in our podcast today, Bill, is that the technology and our video-based society now is revealing these biases. It's revealing some of the ugly realities of people's beliefs and how certain people treat other people.
Yes.
And it's really holding up a mirror to ourselves as a country, as a society, in a way that has not been done, in the past. I'm talking, decades ago and prior. I'm now, more keep coming to mind, Bill. I'm remembering the white woman with her dog in Central Park, and there's the black man that she, felt was threatening him, and she calls 911. And you remember that one? That was this in
dog
2020.
on the leash and
Yeah. I think actually that video, I think, got her in trouble with, dog abuse or animal abuse too, a little bit, because she's practically choking that dog while she's calling 911. And he's like, I'm threatening you. Really? I forget what she accused him of now in this moment, but she literally accused him of, I think, assaulting him or something. And he's like, okay. And he was very calm. The video showed, and he recorded her. And anyway, these videos really, this is the thing that, and I don't know if it's the time to bring this up in our podcast, Bill, but I'm going to anyway. It's a good segue, is that I always tell my kids, you're always on video. When you're out of their house and you are at school, or you are even walking down the street, or you're in a store, you're always on video. Just understand that today. I mean, talk about freedoms and liberties and all that. I'm sure many people don't like the idea that in our video-based society, we're on video all the time. But it's amazing to me, people don't have the kind of awareness that they should, that they're almost always on video. I mean, honestly, Derek Chauvin should have had awareness. He's on video as those bystanders are holding up their phones at him, and he just continued with what he was doing anyway, shockingly.
There's a fear that goes with it. There's a fear that it's going, but the awareness has to do with how to bring your best self. So bring your best self, not walk around in fear. So bring your best self is the message. Instead of be fearful that you're going to get caught.
Well, right.
You are Going to GET caught. See, I don't know, Tom, maybe you have recognized this at one time. We're also human beings too. If you could recognize that we're just human beings and we are going to make mistakes, is the repercussion going to be catastrophic? Is it going to be in business, it's a brand injury? Is it a brand damage? Is it a brand slaughter? The difference is that what does the company do about it? So for example, like we mentioned the Starbucks, well, what they did after that case where the woman called
the police,
police on an African-American sitting and waiting for their person to get there and not ordering anything. And all of a sudden, there's this big kerfuffle and the guy's getting handcuffing for waiting in a space. And there's nothing defiant going on at all, except for a guy waiting in a space. And the thing that the brand did, what the Starbucks folks did, is they shut down. They shut down and did team training for a morning or something like that. I think it was a 4-hour thing.
I remember that.
We cannot, this is not something we do here.
Right.
Wait, and they want to work here on their laptop and buy one coffee and sit here the whole day. God bless them. They're filling our store, and they look like we're providing them a space for them to have, a comfortable place to sit and work and be creative. We want creative people to be in our store, we don't want them to buy coffee all the time. So there's something to, this, to be mindful that human beings make mistakes, and it's going to be shown on video. And we've got to also have the compassion and completely clean it, not come back around to say, see, Starbucks people, see, you better buy something at Starbucks or else. See, it's like, no, we don't want the negative message to come back, and we don't want the video to be shown over and over again. That's not the strongest piece of it either. So this truth in the video based society, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, both in business and obviously the politics that we're seeing with videos of just about anything. Ted Cruz going to Cancun, or Nancy Pelosi saying the thing that she said the other day. It's like, God, can you have a script writer to work with you a little bit? But and all of them struggle with this. It's not like, this is not biased at all. It is, you are being videotaped, and there is the formation of truth that's taking place based on what you're being seen and doing. And can you stand by that? Is it going to be taken in context or out of context? You gotta have some awareness about that. And so bring your best self, bring compassion, bring kindness, bring your best
I like that message a lot, Bill. Bring your best self. I think that's a great way to really reframe this, because I know a lot of people tend to look at it as there are consequences for not behaving properly and, being recorded on video for it. Right. And that fear. And I think as parents, we tend to err on the side of instilling that fear in our kids to sort of scare them straight to do the
Yes.
right thing, when really the message should be your best self, bring your best self forward, and it won't matter that you're on video.
Right.
And in fact, maybe it'll matter in a positive way, because when you're ever on video, people are going to see how you brought your best self to the situation.
Yes. Yeah. Now that immediately flashes me to during one of the protests. There was I think it was in Los Angeles, maybe one of the protests, and they were going down the street, and this one guy was going to look to break in or vandalize a store. And this other protester stood in front of the door and didn't let him do it passively. She kept putting herself in front of the store. He tried to push her away. She kept coming back. She kept coming back. She came back like 3 or 4 times in front of the guy, saying like, no, we're protesting here. We're not damaging this store. We're protesting here. And that's an example of bring your best self. That's an example of, I mean, she literally saved that store and the store owner and that business, $100,000, $200,000, something like that. Easy, something in there, 50, 100,000 in there. So she saved it. Why? Because she brought her best self. She showed up at a place where, it's like, yeah, this kind of junky thing's going to take place. No, it's not. I'm going to step in, so, again, it's really, and we have been in fear of the press. We have been in fear of newspapers, cartoons, radio articles, on TV, phone, internet. We got fear around this stuff, cell phones, body cams. There's going to be a fear in how we're going to be recorded, video. And even for you and I, Tom, this is putting our voice out there in the world. And there is a fear that somebody could take a snippet and put it somewhere and say, oh yeah, those guys, they're this kind of, it's like, no, I may have said that sentence. But at the same time, having awareness, of that is really, really significant, because I've gotten emails of people saying, hey, I think you were a little too left on that one. Here's the right part of it. And you may want to acknowledge all these facts that are sort of like outside the loop. And of course, I appreciate that, because it's like, oh yeah, I would never have seen it that way. I would have never looked at it as that perspective is, how much is enough social service? How much is enough, instead of people carrying their own weight and really taking or being a part of this society in a productive way. So there's it's literally on both sides of it. And the video nowadays is really bring us to illuminate these biases and these beliefs, and there's all kinds of videos, Tom, I think that we had talked about before that that probably can go into this segment pretty cleanly.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, there are videos of recent, police incidents obviously are front and center in our, news and social media existence today, whether it's the video of George Floyd or it's now Dante Wright from Brooklyn Center, Michigan, who was shot by a police officer who mistook her pistol for her taser, or forgot she had her pistol in her hand. And that video really reveals, I mean, she made a terrible mistake. And I think that most people believe that she didn't intend to shoot him with a gun and made a terrible mistake and thought in that moment she had her taser in her hand. Of course, that was a moment of very heightened tensions and a lot had happened. And she's been charged with manslaughter, and it'll be very surprising if she's not convicted of manslaughter and serves time. At the same time, I think the video also provides some other perspective that we have to acknowledge. And we have to acknowledge that Dante Wright was, he was pulled over, and I'm not at all speaking about the merits of pulling him over. I know that's going to be looked at whether he should have been pulled over or not. But once they did, they ran his license and plate and found there's a warrant for his arrest on some other misdemeanor charge, and they proceed to start to arrest him. So this is what I think we have to acknowledge, is that Dante Wright had the ability to bring his best self in that moment and not resist that arrest. Now, I know that's easy to say now,
Yes.
Bill, when he in the moment is in this fight, flight, and freeze,
That's right.
mindset.
That's right.
But as he's being arrested, he resists arrest. He wiggles his way out of them, attempting to put handcuffs on him, and starts to drive away. And it's in that moment he starts to drive away that the officer shoots him. He would be alive today if he had not resisted arrest. I think we have to acknowledge that. But we also, there's so many things to acknowledge here. I agree, Bill, that his mindset in that heightened tension situation was probably not one of, I need to comply or I might lose my life.
Yeah, the physiology that takes place, and I've demonstrated this many times in lectures. I could take somebody and start down a tragic narrative and watch them get angry, helpless, and compliant, but also just depending on what the person's background is, our language and the tone and our experiences cause the person to do fight, flight, and freeze. And this is for the police officers and the person that they're arresting, is the escalation of fear, and we never know the experiences of the person from the past. Whereas somebody says a simple sentence, it triggers this entire cascade of memories and things like that come forward into this moment. And all of a sudden it's like, I got to get out of here, because this is a time when I felt helpless before, and I am feeling helpless now. And my strategy was run out of the back door of the house to escape my whatever, uncle that was angry. We don't know where the fight, flight, and freeze is coming from. They're not running from, and this is how observations really help. They're not running from me. They're running from danger. And that scenario is really hard. And that perspective is really hard to hear, because the police officer then says they're running from me, or they're running from the law, or they're running and they may hurt somebody else. We need to stop them before they do that. And this is the rules and the protocol that go with this. And I am clearly know the level of difficulty it is to have a rule and then also to be able to shift it to observation versus to judgment preventative action. It's very, 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 very hard to do that because of what is happening physiologically in our body. And we know that we're going to be watched. The fun part of this, Tom, is you found a video from the movie 1984, and maybe you could set that on the tee and we can stick the landing here, because this is really where it accumulates into where is our businesses and our society and our mindset going, because their videos are not going away. They're going to be amplified. So this is something we've really got to have some awareness about.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks, Bill. Yeah, I did have an experience recently where I had sort of a deja vu moment, and I had to go look it up to see if my recollection was correct. But on a weekly basis now for more than the last year, twice a week, I participate in a cardio exercise, class. It's cardio kickboxing, and I love it and enjoy it. And it's all done over Zoom. And so, twice a week for an hour. I set up my computer and I have all my gear for exercising, and I'm exercising with, a dozen to 2 dozen other people over Zoom. We can all see each other if we want to, if we have it in gallery mode, or we can pin the person who is teaching the class and make them big and you don't really see anybody else. And as you know, I've been doing this for a year, and just recently, and within the last week, I sort of had this deja vu. I'm like, gosh, I think I remember a scene from 1984, the movie and the book, which I had both read it as a teenager and at some point after I saw the movie, where the main character, he's woken up in the morning, and because I guess the society portrayed by George Orwell is very much it's a totalitarian society, and very militant. It's like you're in the military. There's reveille. You will get up now. It's not like you have a choice. No, I'll stay sleeping in for another 45 minutes. No, you're going to get up now. And the first thing you're going to do is some basic exercises. And the main character is standing in front of the TV, and there's a person who is running the exercise drills, and very quickly they call out, his name and his number. Hey, you're not doing it right. Here, I'll show you. And then, demonstrates, and then has him try again, says, no, you're not doing it right. You must do this. And somebody's, actually talking to him through his TV, can see into his home, watching what he's doing. And this wasn't voluntary. I want to be the first to acknowledge I've chosen to join this class in Zoom. Okay. I want to do it.
No one's making you comply or conform to the exercise. You're doing it by, yourself. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I want to do it. I'm in the best shape I've probably been in 15 years, but I choose to do this, and I enjoy having the group I'm doing it with, especially during the pandemic, because we haven't been able to go into a gym and do it together. So we can do it together virtually. Great. But in 1984, I just had this sort of deja vu to this, and I went and looked at the video, and it was really pretty much how I remembered. And I was like, wow, I bet when George Orwell wrote this, he thought, he might have thought, well, I know this is a real stretch, because with televisions, it's really a one-way medium coming, that something's being projected into your home, but they can't see what you're doing coming back. I can imagine the writer thinking about this. Well, I can imagine a time when that's going to be different. And guess what, folks? Here we are, right? In our video-based society, how many devices do each of us have in our home that not only allow us to watch things going on elsewhere, but have the ability to see us in our home and what we're doing? Now, obviously, we do have some choices.
We purchased
that.
And that's the fun part about it. You and I purchased this video camera to put in our home to transfer energy back and forth and to have conversations. We choose to have different devices in our house. We choose to have our phone talk to us. We choose a lot of that stuff. Many of those things are default, saying, oh, this is really cool, but never looking at the other side of it is like, we are given just a tad bit of privacy up on this one. We are creating a surface of exposure of saying the wrong thing and doing the wrong thing at a moment. As one of my colleagues said, as we were talking over Zoom like that, she goes, Bill, what you just said turned out to this on my text that I was about ready to send. And this is what it was about ready to say. I was going like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to say that, because it interpreted it the way it did, and this is just that kind of awareness that we need to have, and being able to be mindful of our communications. One of the things that is in direct opposition of the way the last 4 years have went is the amount of silence out of the president and the amount of exposure on social media, and it's almost like it's measured, like it's more like a freeway than it is like this mountainous road that you never know what is going to come out of the leader's mouth, right? And so getting into a place where we can have a healthy perspective, of the expanded role of video exposure in our lives as we move forward, because there is an expanded role, and not go, too far. So, that our messages of conformity kind of dominate the space. Um, and that we also don't go the other way, which is, that we're going to be under surveillance the entire time, which is a little more, as has been reported, it's China has the social score, your social score, and they're measuring that. How many times did you jaywalk? Well, we got to take some points off, and as soon as you get high enough, you can't travel. It's like, what? I don't think you want to keep points for those kinds of things, but there are things that people, want to keep points for. And our law is kind of like that too. It's like, it's got to reach the threshold from, this is something morally you're supposed to do, or this is something illegal that you are doing, and get the line that's clean between those two things to show up again. Because you never know when the camera's in the back of the room. You never know.
Well, and that's the thing, Bill. I think we all need to just take for granted there is a camera in the back of the room. I mean, I think it's pretty naive today in 2021 for people to think anywhere, certainly when they're out in a public space, that they're not on camera. I mean, it's just too easy with everybody having a video camera in their pocket on their phone, don't you think?
It is very, very easy. And I remember one conference that I went to that they had right when you signed in a release form. We're going to be filming this, and sign this to have a release. If you choose not to sign it, there are a set of chairs on both sides that the camera will not go to. So if you want to keep privacy, you've got to stay towards those areas. By the way, that might impact your networking. But at the same time, and if you don't mind walking once in a while through this, then but we're going to be filming this and having an audience experience to do that. We're not going to be going back in our video world and trying to smear out your face. We're not doing that. So really, really, really important to watch the expanded role in the video, because, it's all around us. Yeah.
And I think it's here to stay. Yeah. I mean, I really don't think it's going to change, but I do think, Bill, maybe to sort of stick the landing is, yes, I think one of the big messages today is just awareness, like you said,
right,
of how video is transforming our society.
Right.
And I really love what you said about bringing your best self all the time, because your true self is going to be revealed in this video, probably at one time or another, right?
And,
And
mistakes and all. Yeah.
Mistakes and all. But then I do think it's also important to acknowledge that even though we have video and specifically with policing, among many, many other things.
And one of the things too with that, Tom, is that with the policing and with, the cameras being everywhere, the thing that I always do, and I have more information about this on billstierle.com in the communication sections that I have there, as well as how it applies to business, about how can you get your employees to have that bring your best self forward mindset, be the contributor that you want to be the person that's working on your personal or professional development in the work site, and trainings and strategies in order to do that. So that's really kind of like where this thing is going, is that there's an opportunity to actually have new languaging skills to do better at that kind of those kinds of tools.
Boy, do I appreciate that, because I'm always trying to improve my communication skills. So I thank you for that, Bill. But one just last thing is, I think it's important to acknowledge that just because something's on video doesn't mean it is absolute truth.
Right.
that there are still perspectives. And even looking through that camera lens, it's not an omni perspective. It is one perspective.
Correct.
And people can see that different ways. So I just want our listeners to understand, we're not here saying that video is the arbiter of all truth and you better, be on your best behavior because the truth will come out. I mean, it's just one more perspective, isn't it?
That's correct. My request is to put it in perspective immediately, which sounds like this. On a scale of 1 to 10, I am going to put this at a level 5 to start. Notice what I did is I put it right in the middle. Level 5 to start. You don't know when we're watching the police officer hold Floyd down, we don't have awareness of what happened before it's at that spot. We don't have awareness. And yes, and there's a lot of problems with what he did, but we don't know. So by starting with the 5, you then got to go like, wait a minute. We've got to work on our own experience of shock, surprise, and try not to move it and try to rationalize what's happening. You just got to start, okay, this is what I'm seeing. I need some more truth about this before I really get pissed off, or I am pissed off right now. I've got to back it up to see where the truth is landing on this, because just the video by itself. And that's what the idea in the court is being done. Here's what happened to him at first in the store. Here's what happened to him when he was first arrested. Here's what happened next. There was like a sequence of all the things. And then they put it together and go like, those things are to be done through the court system, is to put all of the perspectives together, to broaden that perspective so that we can really get a fuller engagement of truth. Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to leave it, Bill. That's what we're here for, trying to get a fuller engagement with truth. I kind of like how you put that.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. All right. Thanks, everybody. More to come.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.